iRacing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up the
Oh my God!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition to the V8SCOPS calendar. The V8SCOPS support series, a suite of different categories, all rotating throughout the year to bring you some Friday night fun. Presented by Racing, Sims, and of course live here on SimSpeed TV tonight. You've got the V8s and the Legends coming up for you. Two V8 races with a Legend race in the middle, qualifying for the V8s to kick all of it off. And my name, taking you through the evening, is Ryan Jones. I'll have Reese Gardner alongside me for the V8 races, but he'll be jumping in the car for the Legends. And Jake Kennedy will be behind the scenes and then on the mic for a special treat, depending on how you view it. For the Legend race. And Reese, a big evening ahead, different variety of, well, two completely different cars in the Legend and the V8. Going to be fun.
Yeah, I certainly can't wait to make a fool of myself in the Legends race, but here we do have the V8s going through their qualifying session at the moment using the older generation FG Ford Falcon and VF Holden Commodore. The V8SCOPS series proper running the more current cars, but we take a bit of a trip down nostalgia lane for this one. The older body styles, slightly different physics, and just as good of a race to be put on. I can't wait, especially since we are racing at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which is one of my favorite circuits for racing in these cars, racing in any car really. Chicanes, hairpins, braking zones, big curbs, it's got it all.
It does. Let's take a look at the track map and see whereabouts this place is situated. It is up in Canada. It is just north of Montreal. And it is such a famed location for racing now. It's a brilliant venue. It's a street circuit, isn't it? But it doesn't feel like a street circuit. It's located on an island, a bit like Belle Isle in that sort of scenario. Been around since 1978. The layout been this way since 2002. It's 4.3 kilometers long, 2.7 miles. Center S. And the Wall of Champions, not named on that map, but corner number 14. Two corners where you've really got to get it right, otherwise you can really hurt your race. If you go straight ahead at turns 1 or 2, you're going to have a big slowdown to clear. And, well, going straight ahead at turn 1 can spit you straight back into traffic on the exit of turn 2. So there's a big danger zone there, and the Wall of Champions has earned its name, quite rightly so. Traffic on the
Yeah, it certainly has, and I'm sure we'll see a couple of drivers bounce off there tonight with how hard they'll be pushing. Interesting fact, too, about the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. The island it was on was built for Expo 67, the World Exhibition back in the 60s, where Montreal was the place where everyone put up their great works for everyone to see. One of them, of course, being the convention center on this man-made island. And the rectangular pool that you saw just to the south of the circuit was used for the rowing competitions in the Olympics way back when. So this place definitely has a lot of history around it. And it's certainly become notorious on the iRacing service for its brutal slowdown penalties, not just at turns 1 and 2, but also on the entry to that final chicane. And coming around some of the curbs around the back end of the circuit, you can be slapped with a very hefty slowdown penalty if you put yourself even slightly out of line.
It's incredibly punishing, this place. 3 chicanes on this layout. At this track, which is quite unique. You don't see that many chicanes, really, anywhere around the world. And they're all different to each other, which is a lot of fun and challenging for the drivers. Obviously, you've got turns 3 and 4, concrete, coming up very quickly on the right. And they're quite smushed together, if you will. And then you've got the pair that Aaron Gilbert is coming up to in just a moment. It's more of an elongated version of turns 3 and 4, isn't it? And you want to get the power down quite early because there's a decent length straight coming up after it, and that can lead to the rear end sliding out and just whacking that concrete.
Yeah, and you see that the wall is very close to the right-hand side of Aaron Gilbert there too. He's currently P2 in the session. There's only 0.04 of a second difference between himself and Liam Tipping in P1, so Aaron's going to have to nail this lap if he wants a shot at pole position coming out of the Lepangla hairpin. It's a very difficult acceleration zone, especially in these cars. A locked differential with 650 horsepower going through the rear wheels really doesn't like it when you spin up the rears out of a slow corner. Let's see how he goes at the Wall of Champions, braking as late as he dares into this final chicane and bouncing off the curbs. You'll see an awful lot of curb hopping around here. It looks like he just avoided the wall. So let's see how this lap turns out for Aaron Gilbert. Across the line he goes, and I believe that was an out lap. All of that build up for nothing. I did a Murray Walker.
2 minutes and 27 seconds. Just under a minute off the pace with that one. But the times are pretty close, which is fantastic to see. The top 3 covered by less than 1/10 of a second. Actually, to throw the top 4 into that mix. Jason Spriggs sitting there in 4th. Very close to the top as well. Matt Stevens hasn't got a time on the board yet, but he was fastest in practice by 1/10.5. So this is a man that can put his car number 8 right on to the top of the timing board. Now, each round, we're going to see a wild card entry race, and that's awarded by Racing Sims. For this round, they've awarded it to this man, Matt Stevens, and he's making good use of it.
Yeah, he certainly is. With that time in practice, 1 minute 36.5 is the time to beat. Aaron Gilbert was able to get close to that, 136.657 for him. But it looks to me like Matt Stevens is backing out of this one. That lap not quite up to his standards. He might have gotten a slowdown somewhere down the line. He was taking an awful lot of curb at that chicane just before the hairpin. Unfortunately, looks like we've got Aaron Gilbert coming up at the end of his hot lap here. So he'll have to deal with that little distraction, but across the line Gilbert will go. Is he going to take P1 with this? Looks to me like he's not going to be able to. A 37.2 for him, and not quite close enough.
Went back to the left. You can often tell, can't you, if they stay to the right where they exit the corner, they're trying to shorten the distance to the line by as much as they can. It's very minimal, the time you gain, but it's those fine margins that can make the difference. I mean, just look at the gap they've got at the top right now. And he didn't do that. He swung to the left. He knew he wasn't going to go any faster on that lap. In fact, I've just seen a car spun. Brett Hender off turn 4, facing the wrong way, in a tricky spot right now.
Indeed he is, as Vela comes around to finish his lap, and this is going to be a minute 39, nowhere close to the time that he has set for the time being. But Brett Hender there for Fusion Sim Racing spun at the exit of the first chicane, and of course the no escape rule applies in this qualifying session, so Brett's going to have to get that thing back to the pits. He would have lost some valuable time there. There's only 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in the session, so if he wants to improve on his already pretty good P5 position in qualifying, get back out there and set your lap.
2 drivers yet to set a time, Matt Stevens and Henry King. Expecting Stevens to go to the top. No idea on King's pace because he didn't set a time in practice either. You just saw the provisional pulse at a Tippy, as he is known by his teammates, one of which I used to be. Matt Stevens crosses the line in front of him and goes to the top with a 36.758. Puts himself clear by 1/10.5. Tipping going to have some work to do to claw back that margin.
Indeed he will. And Matt Stevens pulls over at the end of that lap. Liam Tipping, I think, gearing up for another one here, going slow, letting other drivers go. That's Simon Mazzomo that he's just let by there. And, apparently he's out of fuel, so he was really pushing the margins on that last lap.
Why didn't he pit?
Yeah, good question.
Because his last lap registered as a 7-minute lap for me.
Yeah. That's very odd. Might be session over there for Mr. Tipping.
Yes. Here comes Gavin Cox, sitting in 7th place. If he can find 0.004 of a second, he'll jump up ahead of Brett Hender. He's jumped up and over the curb, that's for sure.
Oh.
Lucky to get away with that, I think. As he crosses the line, does he find that improvement?
Whoa!
Oh, yes, he does!
Woo!
Straight
Talk about
to the
an
top.
improvement. Goodness me.
Far from gotten away with that at the last corner. I reckon that's given him a huge chunk of time. Because he cut that to perfection.
Wow.
What a lap.
What a lap indeed. I mean, I was surprised that he didn't get the slowdown at the final chicane. He must have pushed those margins incredibly finely. Excellent lap nonetheless from Gavin Cox. What can Tyler Bowen do, on the other hand? He's managed to put himself into P5 on his last lap. 37.075 is his quickest, and all he has to do is find a 10th, and he can potentially jump all the way up to 3rd.
Something cool about these cars we've been hearing from Mizoma, the bird in our ears, is that these cars are a lot more stable to drive now with some of the updates they've had, and they're fun to drive, importantly, Reese. And as a result of being more stable, they're more comfortable, they can push the car more, and as a result, we're seeing some really, really competitive efforts from a lot more drivers.
Indeed we are. Have a look at Tyler Bowen just monstering the curbs there. Didn't quite maximize the exit, but he is obviously quite comfortable. And that's definitely not... wow, okay, yeah, 36.4. Bowen to P1. The timing took a couple seconds to update there. Goodness me. So the times just keep coming down here towards the end of the session. We can probably expect Gavin Cox, Matt Stevens, Liam Tipping, Aaron Gilbert, all those guys to come out for one final run in the last 2 minutes.
Well, Tipping can't do anything. He had to request a tow back to pit lane. He was granted, but he can't come back out on the racetrack.
True.
So that mistake for him is going to cost him a bunch. It's already cost him 4 spots. I wonder if the track temp's plummeting or something along those lines, because huge improvement from Cox and Bowen in the last 2 minutes. Henry King has got a time on the board. He now sits 10th. Tom O'Connor is the only driver without a time, and unfortunately he's not made it into the server. So everyone's put a time on the board. You'll see Loxton and Christensen on the board as well, but they're our safety car drivers, should we require them. We'll see what King can do. 37.564. 2 thousandths away from 9th on the grid. He is 9 tenths away from pole. What does he do as he comes across the line? Another big improvement? Yes, it is!
Whoa!
What's happening out here at Montreal? These drivers are finding time hand over fist, and Henry King goes to the front row.
This is crazy. There's going to be a lot of shuffling at the end of this session. Matt Stevens is going to come round to start his final hot lap here. And it's going to be all about this lap for Matt Stevens. What about Brett Hender? Can he find any time with the track evidently improving towards the end of this session? He's got all of the straight now to have a bit of a rest, determine how he's going to attack this chicane. Hopefully for him, he's gotten a good exit from that hairpin, because I mean, Hender back down in 8th again. All he needs to find is a couple of tenths, and he can vault up the timing sheets. Into the chicane he goes.
He's closer than King was. This is remarkable what we're seeing in this qualifying session of just 15 cars. What's Hender got? Nothing on that lap. A 38.1. He's a second off his own pace. So I think that was a banker before his final effort, which he's just begun with 20 seconds on the clock when he crossed the line. Is that Henry King again? Yeah, I think it is. His distinctive green Zuva livery. Headed down the back straight. Who else have we got? Tyler Bolton's in the pit lane. Cox is in the pit lane. Stevens is in the hairpin. Behind another car. That could give him a tow.
We got Reese Harnell coming up down the back straight as Matt Stevens is in the same place too. I'm wondering if Harnell's going to bring this one into the pits. No, he's not. He's going to have one final run himself. So, Matt Stevens, he was on P1 for some time before the time started dropping down. Harnell's going to cross the line. And oh no, Matt Stevens, you just saw in the background there getting into the wall. So that stymied his run completely. Pole position is lost for Matt Stevens. What about Simon Mazzomo? Can he break into the top 10? Oh, Goodness me, I thought for a second that was contact, but evidently not. He's abandoned it anyway.
Yeah, invalidated lap time for him. Is this our last driver on a lap, or... Nah, surely. Nah, he'd already crossed the line. So, that is the end of qualifying. What a session to open up the V8SCOPS Support Series. That is remarkable. Let's take a look at how things look at the conclusion of 20 minutes of qualifying. And it was the last 3 minutes that provided all of the shuffling. Tyler Bowen takes the pole by the skin of his teeth, 200ths of a second over Henry King. He'll start with him on row number 1. Gavin Cox and Matt Stevens will start 3rd and 4th. Liam Tipping looked set for a pole for a little while there, but he shuffles back to 5th. Look for him to come forward in the race. Aaron Gilbert will be P6. Jason Spriggs was a contender early. He's 7th. Brett Hender is 8th. Simon Vella, Nathan Tregarthen, they'll be on row 5.
Just outside the top 10, Simon Mazzomo missing out by 400ths on a top 10 spot. He's going to be starting alongside Reese Harnell, Corey Kitchen and Anthony Green, 13th and 14th. And final driver to set a time, Nicholas Skaryev, down in 15th place. He's going to have to find a bit more pace if he wants to be competitive with this field. And Tom O'Connor not setting a time in that session. Of course, Brett Loxton and Ben Christensen are our safety car drivers. We've got a 23-lap race coming up in just a few moments, and I reckon it's going to be 23 laps of non-stop action, because if qualifying was that crazy, well, what will the race bring?
I don't know what to predict now after how we saw that session end. 23 laps, that's 100 kilometers. Now, Henry King, right at the end of that session, got disconnected via his internet, and he hasn't connected back yet, and they're beginning the gridding up phase, so he could see a twist before this even begins, with King potentially not gridding up.
Yeah, I think the best he's going to hope for is a start from the pits at this stage, because there's still no sign of him jumping back into the server, and he's only got 1.5 minutes to get himself onto that grid. Now, the start itself is probably going to be a bit more forgiving in these things, because you did mention during qualifying, Ryan, these cars are easier to drive than they once were, and a common train of thought about these cars is that usually you're required to drive them on a knife edge in order to be quick. They can be very twitchy, they can turn on you at any moment, but evidently with these cars being a little bit more docile, I reckon we could see a good consistent start from the guys at the front. They still got to be careful though, because having a lock differential, again, once the wheels start spinning up, it's very difficult to get them back under control.
Henry King's disconnected. He's got 30 seconds to get to the grid. That connected thing comes up, or the connected message, comes up as they're loading. So he's got 30 seconds to complete loading, get himself on the grid. Right now, front row is all Bowen. Behind, it's Cox and Stevens waiting, seeing that empty slot, and hoping that King doesn't grid up and it'll give them an extra boost up the order. Remember, this is race 1 of 2 for these cars. Their races will be split by a Legends race in the middle, which you'll be in, Reese.
Yes.
4, 3, 2, 1. No
King.
Going from pit lane. Front row is all Tyler Bowen. The lights come on. The revs rise. For the first time, the V8SCOPS Support Series Racing Sims, we're away, and Bowen bogs it down, and they are excellent from row number 2. Gavin Cox and Matt Stevens to the lead. Liam Tipping following through, and around the outside into the lead is Matt Stevens. Cox is going to have to fight Tipping for second, and Tipping with the inside should take that spot. Bowen will have to settle into third ahead of settling to fourth behind Gavin Cox in third. In fact, no, here comes Bowen looking to take third on the outside. That's an adventurous move at turn 5.
Yeah, certainly is. Goodness me. Matt Stevens leading the way as the side-by-side action behind. That was Simon Vella going around the outside of Simon Mazzomo. They made very slight contact, but both of them managed to keep it going. So around, halfway around the first lap for the first time, we're already seeing some big gaps forming between cars, so no big moves just yet on this first lap. A slight lock up there from Simon Vella, which has given the run to Mazomo coming up to the hairpin. Could we see a pass there for positions 4 and 5? Vella to the inside, Mazomo having to go through there on the outside. He's got Brett Hender right behind him. And there we go, the acceleration zone. Vella using the slightly wider line there to keep that position.
Tyler Bowen is not on the racetrack right now.
He has not.
Suffered the same fate as Henry King in qualifying. His internet's given up on him. And so, both front row sitters, not in this race right now because King is only just leaving pit lane now. King's just going to hold himself on the lead lap. He is going to really pray for a safety car.
Yeah, he certainly is. There are the leaders, and Henry King just coming up to the first chicane now. So that's going to be a bit difficult for them. Mazomo fallen back into 12th position. Something has happened to him there. It looks like a slowdown at the chicane for Simon Mazomo. Once again, those slowdowns at Montreal, especially brutal. They have got a very big reputation.
So, Matt Stevens leading this race after starting 4th. Liam tipping 5th. To 2nd, Gavin Cox is running in 3rd. But he's right on the back of tipping here. Who's sliding his way out of the 2nd chicane. Brett Hender running 4th right now. Ahead of Anthony Green, who started this race 14th. So that's why I paused. I was trying to find where he started. Way back in 14th. He's 5th.
Yeah, he's doing quite well at the moment too, keeping all of these guys behind him. He's become the cork in the bottle, but I think that is a slowdown there for Anthony Green, letting Tom O'Connor go, and he's going to be joined by Reese Harnell down the back straight. So unfortunate there for Anthony Green, falling back slightly, but he can very easily come back with how brutal the slowdowns are here, coming down into the chicane. No one going for the wall of champions just yet, but if the battles really come up in the octane stakes, then I reckon there's going to be a few cars leaving their mark on that wall. O'Connor going very deep into turn 1.
Simon Vella has just came out of pit lane. He had to tow back to pit lane, it looked like. He's just come out of pit lane. He's now 15th and a lap down by the looks of things, trying to stay out of everyone's way in a very tricky spot in that KFC number 393.
Yeah, that's very odd. Seems that Vella just disappeared from the circuit briefly and then reappeared in pit lane. Something has happened to him there. It's very unfortunate.
In fact, it looks like there's some server-wide technical issues, actually. It's affecting everyone out there right now. And I think Race Control, yeah, they have. They've actually just decided that this can't go on.
Oh, no.
So they've ended the race. They're going to have to try this again. Because server has said, no thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Restart the race. Now, I imagine they'll manually set the grid to how it was in qualifying. We're not going to have to do that again, but we are going to get to do the first 3 laps again.
Right, so some drivers will be looking for redemption then, as everyone files into the pit lane, or at least most of them do. Liam Tipping staying out on the circuit there. Not sure that is allowed in these circumstances, but Tipping's going to pull over on the front straight and get himself towed back to pit lane. So,
well, the race is going to be a full restart, so I don't think it matters, race.
No, it certainly doesn't. So now, for us, the waiting game begins again as they sort out these issues.
I think we've got a promo vid.
Oh.
It's only 30 seconds. No, it's only 30 seconds.
Oh, dear.
All right.
Oh, well.
We will run that, though, while we get ourselves into this new server that's getting set up right as we speak. We're going to restart Race 1, the V8SCOPS Support Series get things back on a fair, level playing ground, rest assured we are in for a cracking first race and still a cracking night of racing coming up here on SimSpeed TV.
I went as a spectator to Silverstone, walked around the car park where you saw lots of racing cars and Bentleys, and I saw one that appealed to me.
Yeah.
So I sat on the step all day until the owner came along. And I said, how much do you want for this 8-litre Bentley, a 2-seater, very powerful car? Oh, he said £250. I said, oh, I can't afford that. So I said, let's go and have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So he said, well, what could you afford? I said, £200.
Yes.
So he said, right, done. So he slapped my hand like that. Deal was done. He delivered the next day.
Welcome to the V8SCOPS support series at Montreal for definitely the first time. Presented by Racing Sims here on SimSpeed TV. We're ready to do this again. We've got a 20-lap race ahead of us now, so we've taken 3 laps off just to shorten things up and not stretch the evening out too long. We've got our original grid from our original qualifying set with one change. Remember, Henry King didn't make it to the grid in time, so he's decided that he start from the rear of the grid to make things fair, which I don't agree with. I think he should start second, Reese. I think you think he should start at the back. But here we are. We've got our original grid back. Let's try again. For some drivers, they're thinking, damn, I've got to try and get that amazing start again. For some drivers, like Tyler Bowen, who got a horrendous start, they're thinking, thank goodness.
Yeah, indeed. Another opportunity to get themselves off the line nicely. And it looks like most of the drivers are now in the server, so we should be going through to the race session pretty shortly. But for now, drivers just out in the practice session. I'm looking at the track conditions. It is a bit different to what it was just a few minutes ago. The track temp was 26 degrees in the last server, but in this one, it's gone up to 31. So that could play havoc with some drivers' setups.
Yeah, it's 5 degrees. It doesn't sound like much, but it can make a lot of difference, especially on iRacing. We know temperature has a big effect on what your car's doing and what it wants to do and how you have to drive it. And the setups as well then need to have some adjustments to them. So 20 laps. We'll have a safety car if we need, or hopefully we don't. And I do wonder, track temp, we talk about it. Did track temp have something to do with what we saw at the end of qualifying, Reese? The huge improvements we saw from Tyler Bowen, Gavin Cox, and Henry King were the 3 that found massive time. Matt Stevens as well, although technically he was coming from nothing, so it was going to be an improvement, but it was still a massive effort from all 4 of those drivers. It came from nowhere.
Yeah, certainly. And I didn't see much evidence of the track temp dropping during qualifying, so who knows, maybe just enough rubber had been put on the racetrack for the optimum grip. Matt Stevens practicing his start at the end of pit lane. He really wants to get it right this time. With these slightly warmer track temperatures, the cars are going to understeer more into the corners, and when they lose grip at the rear, it's going to be a little bit more extreme. Another driver wanting to test out some starts will be Tyler Bowen, and he'll definitely be running through this scenario a couple of times.
Well, he went back to 5th place before the start, or off the start in race 1, because he got bulk wheel spin. But that start was a bit better for him. No wheel spin.
Yeah, none at all. Hopefully he can repeat that starting from pole position. And we are advancing the session now that everyone is in. So Jason Spriggs with that fastest lap so far of a 38.9. They're going to be going a bit faster than that in the race session, I believe. And the session advances. Finally, Ryan, we can go racing once again.
The Racing Sims V8SCOPS support series will see us racing the V8s, the Legends, the Trucks, and the Porsches. Today is all about the V8s and the Legends, and this is race 1 for our old generation of V8.
Just a little interjection as the timer continues to tick down. I've just looked at the track conditions. Apparently, it was set up with a clean track. There's actually no rubber laid down on the circuit, so these drivers are going to have a bit of trouble on the first lap with the grip.
We got a minute. How's that going to affect him, Reese?
Well, you're definitely going to be seeing a lot more sliding, and the drivers getting on a bit more of a knife edge. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The gridding timer is up. The revs will rise shortly.
Oh yeah, it's just a minute of gridding. Front row is now Bowen and Cox on the front row. No King, he's at the back. Lights go out. We're racing for definitely the first time. And again, Bowen goes nowhere. And again, Matt Stevens has the whole shot. Last time it was from 4th. This time it's from 3rd. The end result's the same. He leads them through turn 2. Cox, though, overshoots. And Bowen is going to be able to come back and take 2nd place away. So at least he's only lost 1 spot this time.
Yeah, big understeer for Gavin Cox in turn 1 as the field files through that first chicane. They're still sorting themselves out in the midfield. Liam Tipping with some big pressure from Aaron Gilbert. He goes defensive. Gilbert trying to find some kind of spot to put his car in, nearly avoids getting run into by Brett Hender. The top 3 now starting to break away from the rest of the field as they're now halfway through the first lap. Aaron Gilbert is lining up a pass on Liam Tipping potentially. No, he tucks back in just before they go through the chicane. Henry King already making up positions after starting from last.
Oh, and straight ahead goes Nathan Tregarthen. King was just getting by him. Tregarthen was offline and he couldn't keep the car pinned to the racetrack. Probably a side effect of there being no grip out there. It's just nothing to work with offline. Tippy's just lost his spot to Gilbert, who got up the inside and out of shape. Good save from the Racing Ozman right there. That thing was sideways on the little kink as you come onto the back straight.
Yeah, just getting onto the curb and spinning up those rear wheels. Got to be careful about that here. Keep it on the black stuff through the chicane then for the first time. Everyone banging over those curbs, giving the suspension a real workout, and lap 1 completed.
The advantage is Matt Stevens' race by almost a second over Tyler Bowen from Gavin Cox, Aaron Gilbert, Liam Tipping, your top 5.
Indeed, and Matt Stevens starting to eke out that gap. Nathan Tregarthen going into the pits. I don't know if that's going to be night over for him. But the race continues up the front with Stevens starting to gap these guys. Gavin Cox is starting to fall back into the clutches of Aaron Gilbert and Liam Tipping. And was that Bowen going a little bit wide in that chicane? He's going to have to be careful. This is just giving more and more of an advantage to Matt Stevens out front.
Stevens is looking very fast. But I think he's got some competitors. Bowen's looking a little bit inconsistent, but he's certainly got the overall pace. Gilbert is scrapping hard with Gavin Cox. He got by Tipping, and he's now got right up to the back of Cox, and a late look into the hairpin as well. He's pulled it up beautifully. That car is moving forward at what a rate. The jig shifters 0-3 up into P3.
Excellent stuff there from Gilbert. It almost looked like he was going to overshoot the hairpin, but magnificently pulling that thing up. And the draft coming into effect down the back straight isn't going to harm him very much. His next target is going to be Tyler Bowen, who's taken a slightly compromised line through the chicane. We'll get lap times coming across the line for Tyler Bowen at the end of lap 2. It's going to be a 1:38.001. Aaron Gilbert not that far behind in the lap time stakes, as that's a slowdown for Simon Vella, unfortunately. The chicane biting once again. And
remember that... Oh, who's that?
Oh.
That's Tregarthen, sorry. Just coming out of pit lane. Right into this pack. He's slotted in behind Tipping. He's got Brett Hender behind him. Tregarthen's a very experienced driver. He'll keep himself out of the way here, but this is just about collecting points for him now at this point. And the grid for race 2 is set by the order in which they finish this race as well. So it is worth staying out there. If a few drivers get into the fence, they may retire altogether, and he will finish ahead of them. Stevens, his gap has shrunk completely on this lap. Half a second. It's been cut in half now. Tyler Bowen's gotten his act together, and he is running him down. Aaron Gilbert, I would be wary of him. Now that he's into 3rd, he's got no one in front of him, and he was very quick, even with cars to pass.
Yeah, indeed he was. Looking forward to seeing what Gilbert can do, as we just saw the move there for Brett Hender, and on board with Liam Tipping coming up alongside Gavin Cox. Very narrow line there coming through the kink on the back straight. The wall juts out at the apex of that sweeper, and Cox just lifts off a bit earlier to let Liam Tipping go.
Bowen had it all crossed up as he came out of turn 14. used up a bit too much of the curb and it spat him sideways as he tried to apply the power. But he still registered the fastest lap of the race, a 37.6. He, in the end, only went fractionally quicker than Stevens, who was not far away from that fastest lap. Corey Kitchen's in the lane as well. So another driver with an issue, having to come to the pits early on.
You're not sure what the issue is there for Corey Kitchen, but that looks like another position for Henry King. And, okay, we just got the news. It's a drive-through for Corey Kitchen for jumping the start, so didn't quite get it lined up with everyone else coming off that starting grid.
It's a really unfortunate error from him. It's going to put him really on the back foot. He'll still be ahead of Tregarthen, but that's pretty much it. Well, that is it. Him and Tregarthen bring up the rear. Luckily, he won't lose a lap from this drive-through. Stevens, Bowen still about a second separating them. Gilbert still sitting about 2.5 seconds away. Tipping in fourth is edging out a gap over Gavin Cox. But look at the train behind him. Hender, Spriggs, Mizomo, Harnell. Tregarthen's in there, but he's of course a lap down. But Henry King's up to 11th from the back of the grid. And then Tom O'Connor. Simon Vella's in it as well.
Yeah, there could certainly be some shuffling in this pack more towards the end. If one driver makes a move at the front of this train, then that's going to slow them up and bring them right into the clutches of everyone else. You see Tregarthen just pulling over to let Henry King by there on the front straight as they begin the 5th lap of 20. It's very close between Spriggs and Mizomo there. Simon has really shown some great flashes of pace so far tonight, and having worked his way up from 10th place, he'll be wanting a couple of extra positions out of that as well, but with a slide like that, you're not going to get far.
You've got to keep that in check, and it's only going to get worse as the race goes on, as those rear tyres start to fade, and traction control becomes harder and harder to manage as we get a virtual racing school replay. Proud to have these guys on board this season. See the wheel work as he has to turn left coming out of the right-hander. Never a good thing, but he did well to manage it. Didn't lose much time either. Just a nice controlled slide. And then this was the big slide. Lucky not to hit the fence.
Very lucky. You know, that curb at the left-hander and that chicane, there's a big hump right in the middle of it that can really unsettle you. So Mizomo will want to avoid that in future laps, but having a look at Henry King slowly advancing on this pack. You see him in the green car there. He's starting to draw up to the back of Reese Harnell now, and the draft coming into effect again on the back straight. It's not going to be a move for Henry King this time, but I reckon next lap he'd definitely have a chance at getting by into that chicane. But I really love this pack right now. Poor Mizomo taking a bit too much curb in the chicane, and I'm wondering if that's a slowdown for him.
Nope, I jumped the gun.
No.
the way he pulled over, and then Spriggs disappeared off the top of my screen. I thought he was slowing down, but he's just got away.
There we go.
He did get a slowdown.
He did indeed. So that's 2 positions lost there for Mizomo, back into 10th place for him. And the battle between Harnell and King continues, but no, Harnell's gotten into the wall off the exit of the chicane. And King almost lining up a move into the chicane there. He would have noticed that big hit for the wall for Harnell. And he's got a compromised exit from this chicane as well. King going to go up the inside. The traction is there for the Oceanic Sim Racing man. As we look back from Harnell at Mizomo, who's starting to come back on these two. Harnell a bit deeper on the brakes into the chicane. He's trying to defend here from Henry King. They go too wide, and this is just giving more of an advantage to Mizomo, who's probably going to get by Reese Harnell into the hairpin. The move is already complete.
Good fight back from Harnell. King set him up beautifully to get the run out of turn 7. Unfortunately for Harnell, it has cost him the spot to Mizomo, and look who it's brought into the fight. Tom O'Connor, a little bit of contact as they exit the hairpin. Nothing major, just a little rub, but now it's going to drag Vella along as well. He's going to use the slipstream behind O'Connor for as long as he could, at least. In fact, he might have a little nibble at O'Connor into the braking zone for the last chicane. He'll be a brave man. He is a brave man. Into the last chicane, side by side contact, a slide. Oh, Vella picks up 2 of them.
Little bit of biff and barge, never hurt anyone, and looks like those guys have sorted themselves out beautifully in that chicane battle. So now, Nathan Tregarthen on the end of this, the lapped car, he's being treated to quite the show as poor Tom O'Connor almost running wide in turn 2, nearly gave the opportunity to Reese Harnell, who goes for one heck of a slide on the exit of turn 2. But that's par for the course in these things.
Yeah, just an update on the top 3. Their pace is so even. They're all lapping pretty consistently, and no one's really making any ground. Occasionally, or a lap, Gilbert might make some ground on Bowen, or Bowen on Stevens, or Stevens on one of them. But then they'll just get clawed back the very next lap, and it ends up stagnant. But just for reference, the last lap, Bowen and Gilbert were identical and quicker than Stevens. So maybe there's something changing there. But as for now, they are 1.6 and 2.3 seconds away from each other.
And we have a look at Reese Harnell once again coming into the hairpin. And it looks like these guys are going to start to pull away from him if he doesn't keep himself in this fight. Just ahead of him, Tom O'Connor on the verge of breaking into the top 10. He's got Simon Vella just up ahead of him there. And Mazomo clearing out on all of those guys. He's got quite the gap behind, no pressure, so Mazomo and King might be battling pretty soon.
Vella, O'Connor, Harnell, Tregarthen just lurking. He's got the pace over them, but he doesn't want to put himself in this battle and affect their scrap, does he? And as a result, he's just having to sit there and wait. Henry King puts in the fastest lap of the race, meanwhile, up the road from these drivers, driving away from Mazomo, trying to drive himself up onto the back of the Spriggs, Hender, and Cox scrap.
Yeah, and Spriggs, Hender, and Cox, they look like they're pretty evenly matched as well. Brett Hender was 0.2 faster on the last lap than these two drivers that he's sandwiched in between, so keep an eye out for Brett towards the end. He could make some moves once he gets a bit more comfortable in that race rhythm. But the battle further back really continuing because Vella isn't showing any sign of dropping these guys and going a little deep into the chicane as well, giving a slight advantage there to Tom O'Connor. And they are well within draft range as well.
Yeah, just locked up the right front into that turn 8 corner. He's locked up the right front again into the hairpin here. This could compromise his exit. He was a little bit delayed trying to turn that car in. Tom O'Connor followed him though, that was the issue. He shadowed his mistake, and down the straight he'll shadow him, trying to hunt a toe as well. You'll see it in the background as we look at Cox and Hender a little bit closer, but not close enough for a move. Not at turn 13 and 14 anyway. No change behind them. Let's keep our focus here for now then. It's Cox, slightly shallower into turn 1 than Hender. Jason Spriggs is behind them, and then Lucas joined them. Henry King, after going purple, followed it up with another blinding lap, and has officially joined the party. And I don't think this will be too difficult for King, given the pace advantage he's got. Last lap, he was 1.4 seconds quicker than Jason Spriggs.
Yeah, that's quite the margin, so expect King to pull a move at some point on this lap. Slight lock-up for Jason Spriggs, but he keeps it on the line in the chicane. And Hender at the moment is looking at Gavin Cox, starting to pull away from him here. Not quite the best Sector 1 there for these guys, but Henry King lurking in the background as ever, trying to take as much of those curbs as they can. It's the white curbs beyond the red and white ripple strip that you really got to look out for in these chicanes. You take too much of those and you're going to be slapped with a slowdown. You do gain quite a bit of an advantage if you hit them correctly. Into the hairpin once again. This is where the draft's going to come into play for Henry King. Let's see if he can get the move done on Jason Spriggs.
I don't think it's going to be close enough for Henry King, but a good run through the chicane and potentially an opportunity to spring a move at turn 1. Back up the entry, drive out of here very well. Get the power down early is what I mean, so you can drive out of there well. And he did that, but he had a little slide. and it just hurt him. You can see how close he got. He was probably about half a car length away from being able to pull that trigger. Now he sets up wide in the middle of the corner to turn back and try to get the power applied on this little short shoot between 2 and 3. But again, not quite there. So I'll have to eat my words. He is having to work hard to get by here.
Yeah, but I think it's obvious looking in from the outside that King is very strong on the brakes, has a brief look at Jason Spriggs. You see how much he lunges forward in every braking zone. He's really got that car set up to his liking, going for a little bit of a slide on the exit of that chicane too. As we're hearing Aaron Gilbert got a slowdown, so he's dropped off the top 3 battle and is now only 4 tenths ahead of Liam Tipping. Could be a potential podium there.
Yeah, I just noticed that. And our top 2 have really closed up as well. Bowen's reeled in Stevens to half a second again, and he's right there with him down the back straight. So fights popping up all over the place on the halfway point of this race. Stevens, chose a adventurous line down the back straight. Remember, Stevens is in this race as the wildcard entry put up by a good friend, Paul from Racing Sims, who's helped out a lot to get the support series going, and wildcard entry is one of those areas where he's helping out, and it's good to see. It's working well. Look at Stevens go.
Yeah, certainly is. We're going to get another VRS replay meanwhile. Looks like this was an issue for the 03 of Aaron Gilbert. That is where he got the slowdown, just going a bit too deep into the final chicane and bouncing across those curbs. That's what happens. We're saying on the replay, because something has happened here with Henry King. Is this a move on Jason Spriggs? Round the outside into turn 1. Doesn't always work, but King immediately switches to the inside and gets the move done very nicely.
A watch pot never boils, does it?
I've watched plenty of pots.
Bowen got really close to Stevens into turn 6, and it forced Stevens into a defensive line. So the pressure's really on him now. And Bowen has got the attacking blinders on. All his focus is on that man in front of him. Tipping has been able to get by Aaron Gilbert, by the way, too. So Tipping's up into 3rd. 5.6 seconds away from this leading battle. Probably a bit too far back, unless they really start going at it hammer and tongue.
Have a look at King on the back of Hender now. He's completely dropped Jason Spriggs, who's trying his best to stay on this fight there in the background, but King right on the bumper now of Brett Hender, and Hender's going to go defensive into turn 1, but King again very strong on the brakes. He's ahead of Hender at the turn-in point, and they give each other the room. They're both very fair racers. Yeah, big slide.
He had the rears pinched and almost backed it into the corner. You said earlier, we thought the first one was a move around the outside. It wasn't. Said moves around the outside of someone don't work that often. It worked that time. And that's the sort of moves I was expecting from King with his pace advantage. He's getting fed up. He wants to move forward now. He needs to give himself an opportunity in race 2 with a good starting spot, courtesy of a strong finish in this one. Mistakes like that won't help. They'll slide through turn 6, cost him a chunk of time to Gavin Cox in front.
Well, we are 12 laps into the race now, so the tyres will be starting to move past their optimum operating range. So King has exploited the grip to its maximum for now. He might have to dial it back a little if he wants to preserve some grip towards the end. But you see him there continuing to close up on the brakes on Gavin Cox. Brett Hender's not fallen back as far as I thought he would. Staying with him here and snatching a little bit of extra draft will certainly help. I don't think King's going to be making a move down here at the chicane. He's a bit too far back to get it done, but again, we got to watch out for turn 1.
Just watching all of their lines through the chicane, and some of them are much more aggressive through there. King was willing to really hop over the curb. Cox was more sparing, and it's cost him time. Had to delay his throttle application because he was still turning around the apex, whereas King was bouncing over the top of it, getting the power down. As a result, down at turn 1 and 2, King goes by him. And Henry King then is now up into P5 from P16 on the grid after qualifying second, missing the start of the race initially.
Indeed. Well, I don't know if King is going to be able to make up that time to the top 4 ahead, and especially since I just saw him go for a slide. Oh no, he's done a Vettel at Canada 2011. Unfortunately, that has brought all of the drivers he's passed right back into it. Brett Hender doesn't quite know what to do here. He doesn't want to make it 3 wide on the run up to the chicane, but King's going massively defensive there on the inside as Gavin Cox tries to take him, and it looks like it might have just worked. No, it hasn't. They're going to go side by side into the hairpin once again. So can King actually make this move stick? He's going to be later on the brakes for sure. Just inching forward as they get to the turn-in point. Cox gives him the room, stays wide, and it looks like that's going to be move completed for Henry King once again, but a slightly better exit for Gavin Cox. This is going to keep going, I reckon.
This is great. Lots of respect between these two. Plenty of room given. It's hard to get 2 cars side by side through turns 7 and 8, but they did it beautifully. Into the braking zone. Cox just brakes early and allows King through there. Knew the gig was up, but it allows Brett Hender a sniff. Nope, he got held up, and it allows Jason Spriggs instead an opportunity to maybe put himself up a spot. He shows the nose for turn 1. Late on the brakes, not quite there.
And look who's caught up, Simon Mazzomo. Oh, up the inside of Spriggs, turns him, and immediately redresses the move.
Well, that door wasn't open.
No, certainly wasn't, but you could see that Mazzomo saw the opportunity and wanted to take it. Oh, have a look at this for the lead, meanwhile. Less than 0.3 of a second between Tyler Bowen and Matt Stevens here.
It's not good for them because they were really slow. They just got their act together on the previous lap. But if they start battling, or just driving slow again and not battling, which they were doing previously, Tippy will catch them. He caught them by 0.7 of a second 2 laps ago. He's got a lot of pace. Owen had a lot of pace into that braking zone. Almost crashed straight into the back of Matt Stevens. He could have had a good exit and got away with it, but he struggled a bit for traction. Had a slide, and as a result, he will lose a couple of tenths at the hairpin. There's Tipping in the background. I keep alternating between Tipping and Tippy, force of habit.
Oh, and almost an appointment with the Wall of Champions there for Tyler Bowen. He's gotten a bit crossed up on this lap, and I could see the reason why he almost overshot the hairpin. I think he just got his left side tyres into the grass in the braking zone. It wasn't by much, but it was enough to just send him a little deeper into the braking zone than he would have liked. Aaron Gilbert, meanwhile, in 4th place. His previous lap was invalidated.
Obviously, a lot of time. Another slowdown, probably.
Yeah, for sure. And that means Henry King's catching up to him at a rate of knots. 3 seconds now. Can King make that up in just 5 and a bit laps?
Yes. Wow, just hearing that 4 of the last 5 laps for Gilbert have been invalidated.
Wow.
And remember, your laps don't get invalidated for just off tracks in a race, so that's for slowdowns. So he's really hurting for extreme track limits or at the chicanes. And it's proving costly. Now 10 seconds off the race lead. You'll want to hang on to a row 2 start here in 4th place for the second race. Henry King's coming with a head of steam. His last lap of 38.3. I don't know what Gilbert's was, but I suspect it was probably slower.
Well, the 1 minute 40.4 on that lap, and his last valid lap was a 38.132. So if he can get clean laps running, he's definitely comfortable in the low 38s, but Henry King, despite being slightly slower on his fastest times in the last 5 laps, he's getting consistency, and that's the main thing. But he's just vaulted the curbs at the chicane, so that might have stymied him a little. What's happened to Reese Harnell here?
Out of turn 8. Oh, that's close to the concrete. He's got Tregarthen behind him, who's a lap down. Was that a big lock-up in front? I wonder if he's claimed an innocent victim. Ooh, that's odd. That's very odd. Harnell is just going in deep, and I think he's pulled a bit of pulled a handbrake maneuver there, actually, just to get himself turned around.
Yeah, seems that way. As we check back in with our leaders, 0.8 of a second between the two cars up front. Tyler Bowen's still looking for a bit of extra pace in these last few laps, and once he gets into, oh no, that's not going to help him. Big slide, and he's actually half spun it. He's going to lose a bunch of time and second place. Liam Tipping moves on by. It looks like Bowen just locked the rears a bit coming into that chicane, and when he tried to correct it on the change of direction, the car just decided to go completely the other way.
The pace of Stevens and Bowen was bewildering. They were matching each other lap for lap, despite being incredibly inconsistent. Like 38.7, 38.3, 38.7, 38.0, 38.2, 37.7. They were both doing the same numbers every lap. Meanwhile, Tipping's putting in, consistent 37.9, 38.0, 38.1, 38.0, 38.1, which is why he's catching massively some laps and chopping other laps. It's actually really strange, the pace of those top two, or now first and third.
Yes, indeed, and Tyler Bowen now is going to be facing some pressure from Aaron Gilbert, who's continuing to just set the consistent low 1 minute 38s himself.
Going to be quite the fight in race two, with starting from second instead of fourth. If he can keep ground early, he lost a lot of early ground in Tipping. I wonder if that's partly why he's so consistent at this point. Maybe he was saving his tyres. And if he can just slightly adjust the way he does that early on, he might be able to stay in touch with Stevens and Bowen and really bring them to fight by the end of the race. Of course, race 2 will be 23 laps, not the slightly shortened 20 laps this first race is. Brett Hender, meanwhile, is still in the fight for P6 on the back of Gavin Cox.
Yeah, these guys have been keeping each other very good company over the last few laps, and they did seem pretty consistent in terms of times, but Brett Hender was about 0.6 faster than Gavin Cox on the previous lap, so he's certainly in with a chance of nabbing position 5 back after losing it a bit earlier on. Out of the chicane, though, he's a bit too far back to make a draft move into the final chicane. We'll see if they get a bit of courage and start using those curbs a bit more. Eke out a little bit of extra time, but Brett Hender, again, just playing the long game here, hoping that Gavin Cox, I think, will make a mistake.
Gonna have to make the move himself, potentially. Gavin Cox looks pretty good. He did start second, he's got raw pace. Just got away from him a little bit in terms of lap time. He's had a couple of slowdowns which have hurt him. Certainly probably disappointed with how this race has gone. He'd be really trying to hold on to 6th place. He can at least start from the 3rd row of the grid. And row 3 always is better than row 4.
Yeah, certainly a few extra meters on the drivers behind you never hurts. But moving a bit further back, it seems like the battle's really starting to come on strong for Simon Mazzomo. He's catching back up to Jason Spriggs gradually, and Simon Vella right behind him is, oh, that's a mistake there for Mazzomo. Off the circuit at the chicane, the rear's locked and went for a big old slide. Simon Vella manages to go by quite easily from that one.
But Simon, I thought you said these cars were so easy to drive.
Well, if you... Oh, why did they hairpin too?
Tom O'Connor almost got right into the back of him as they both overcooked the entry to the hairpin. Mazzomo tucks into his slipstream then instead. We try to pick up this spot. He lost 2 spots from that mistake as a result of running wide as well at the hairpin. You never really want to make a move into that chicane, but a poor run for O'Connor is going to give Mazzomo the better opportunity in towards turn 1. But he's going to have to look at the outside. Vella's got a slowdown, and O'Connor a bit
Oh.
spooked, jammed on the brakes instead of just driving around him.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I suppose that's better than making contact. Unfortunately for O'Connor, he's dropped all of that time to Mazomo now, and he's
He had to slow
coached
down
to the
there.
battle. Yeah, looks like he has. Simon Vella's going to go by him here into the first chicane, but they're going to make contact as Vella's rear end swings out wide. And Vella immediately redressing the position once again. It's been a bit of a messy half a lap for those two.
Lucky it's a penultimate lap because that's pulled out the left rear fender from Vella's car. And Mazomo's loved that. He gave up those 2 spots and got him handed straight back to him.
That he did. Our leader, meanwhile, Matt Stevens, he's been untroubled for most of this race. Briefly harassed by Tyler Bowen, but after he made his mistake, it's just been a case of eyes forward and run out the clock for Matt Stevens, coming round to get the white flag. And I think, we haven't given him a huge amount of TV time tonight. There's been some great battles in the midfield, but nothing to take away from this drive here from Matt Stevens, making his wildcard entry count for sure.
Question on him will be to try and double up in race 2. Still got 4 odd kilometres to navigate though. 4.4 seconds in hand over Liam Tipping, who slowly chipped away at the gap over the last few laps since putting himself into 3rd and then 2nd after Bowen's mistake. Certainly been a factor later on, probably one of the better drivers towards the end in terms of pace. Henry King as well, starting from 5th, is going to be pretty fearsome for the drivers around. He's not settled in 5th, he might still be up for 3rd, maybe, but probably 4th if anything. He's right behind Gilbert and Bowen, heading towards turn 8.
Well, we'll see if there's any surprise moves at the chicane. It looks like all of them managed to get through that one very nicely. King right on the back of Aaron Gilbert now. Too far back for a lunge into the hairpin, but we know how strong King is on brakes. You see the gap close up massively there. King actually overshot slightly, but that should allow him to get on the throttle very nicely for the final run to the line. Speaking of final runs to the line,
so, the first V8SCOPS Support Series event is the V8 at Montreal, and it's going to be taken out by the Racing Sims wild card driver. Matt Stevens wins race 1. Liam Tipping going to come home in 2nd. Tyler Bowen holds on for 3rd. It's 4th place for Aaron Gilbert. It's 5th for Henry King.
and Gavin Cox manages to beat Brett Hender to the line for 6th place. A great battle between those two, and a move into the chicane there. Tom O'Connor having to yield to Simon Vella at the very last moment. That was quite the lunge, and it's worked out in Vella's favour there. That's going to be 10th place for him.
And there you have it, the end of our first support series race. We've got the Legends coming up next, and then race 2 of the V8s. Let's look at our full results. 4.5 seconds, the winning margin for Matt Stevens over Liam Tipping. And then Bowen 3rd, Gilbert 4th, King from 5th in the back of the grid as we mentioned. Gavin Cox, Brett Hender, Jason Spriggs, Simon Mizomo, Simon Vella.
Going over the page, coming home in 11th, Tom O'Connor. Could not break back into the top 10. Reese Harnell coming back 39 seconds behind. Anthony Green and Nick Skariev coming home 13th and 14th, with Corey Kitchen coming home just behind him there. Would have been a close battle for P14. We'll get a replay of that before we go on break. And unfortunate for Nathan Tregarthen, he just wasn't able to capitalise with that penalty for himself.
No, but he will get to go again. He'll have to start from 16th, but as Henry King showed us, so there's no obstacle. We'll look at a quick virtual racing school replay here of that move into the last corner. What are we looking at here?
Looking at a slowdown, I think. The gap at the line had to get on the brakes, but Oh, wow. That was very close between the two of them right at the end of it. And you see Spriggs, I think that is, going a bit overshot there into the first turn. This is how Simon Vella made the move on Tom O'Connor.
We'll go back to the hairpin to see how he set this one up. They both overcooked the hairpin.
Oh.
And then that gave Vella the better run. Remember, they made contact at the start of this lap, back at turns 3 and 4. O'Connor didn't cover. That was a mistake.
Yeah, left the door right open for Simon Vella, and later on the brakes, gave the requisite amount of room and move completed quite nicely there into the chicane. So snatching a top 10 at the final hurdle.
Alright then, that's the end of race 1. Time for another quick break here on SimSpeed TV, but stick around because coming up on the other side of this is the Legends.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back to the Racing Sims V8SCOPS Support Series here at Montreal, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and we are getting set for the Trucking Legends. I've got to be very careful with that. As we doing a bit of an interval race, a fun race this is going to be, very competitive, and a complete contrast to the V8s that we have on either side, and a complete contrast in the commentary box as well, from Reese Gardner alongside me.
Wow, what an intro.
To Jay Kennedy.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm actually excited for this. I sort of wasn't originally going to be doing comms, but here I am, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be very, very good fun.
I publicly despise Jay, but inside, I love working with him. He's a good laugh, and so this should be a good, fun 10-minute race and a 15-minute qualifying session to set the grid for it. And hopefully, we only need one try to get this race underway. Unlike what just happened about 40 minutes ago with that first V8 race, which was quite the race, Jay. How'd you see it from the director's chair?
It was a really, really interesting race. I was very, very, very impressed, if I could get my words out. I remember why I don't normally commentate. No, that was a really cool race, and the battles we had throughout were very, very cool. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it, but I'm looking forward to this. Seeing Reese get back in the car is always a thrill, so I'm looking forward to seeing how Reese goes out on track. Nick Scariev out there as well, so that'll be good fun. And some familiar names that we see from V8SCOPS as well out there. Brett Loxton's out there. Daniel Stevens, who we see very, very familiar driver in the Majors series, who we'll see out on track tomorrow night in the Majors. He's out there on track, so looking forward to that. And of course, Corey back out there again, who we just saw, and also Reese Harnell out there as well, who we just saw in the last race. They're out there backing up in what could be probably the two most opposite ends of the spectrum in regards to cars that we're going to see throughout the entirety of the support series.
Yeah, and that's going to be quite an interesting switch, and they've got to go back the other way as well. It's going to be tough for them, and I wonder if it'll have an effect on their performance when we see them hop back into the V8 a little bit later on this evening. Tom O'Connor, Reese Harnell, Brett Loxton, Nick Scariev, Corey Kitchen, and Anthony Green. 6 drivers doing double duty, if that counts correct, Jay. And here is Reese Gardner, Southpaw racer, much loved Western Australia based content creator. I don't know how to describe him. Content creator?
Out and out legend.
Out and out legend? Racing the legend? Yeah, that'll work. That'll do.
I think most people in the sim racing world know Reese are just noticing that the way the car's set up, that looks like it's turning right the whole time, does it not? They are running a fixed setup.
Well, you are the director, so it's got an onboard shot, Jay.
So I'm trying to remember which camera is which on these. Been a long time since I've broadcast a race in these cars, so. Yeah, look,
no, his steering wheel's dead straight.
Steering wheel is straight, but the front wheels are definitely not.
You can, of course, set steering offset, and all of, well, you can set steering offset, so you can have your wheel pointed straight. Generally something that happens on the oval side of things, where these cars do race on the iRacing service on an official series. I think it's rookie class. I had a dip, and I came last. Anthony Green, his first time on the board, a 2-minute 1.997, 156.8 from Reese Gardner, immediately eclipses that. And so that's about 20 seconds away from what we were seeing in the supercar, isn't it?
Yeah. So the
Oops.
cars are a lot slower than we saw in the V8. So Brett Loxton probably be a bit confused in regards to the amount of horsepower he's got at the moment. Of course, a motorbike engine in these cars and sequential gearbox. So not much to these cars when you compare them to the iRacing big beast of a V8. But Loxton, no time set on his lap, which actually looked like it was pretty good, but Green's going faster on this one now.
Daniel Stevens has slotted into second. He's 2 seconds away from Gardner. Let's see if these cars are topping out, because I imagine the draft could be reasonably important.
Yeah, I think that the draft will play a pretty big factor in these things once we get into race mode. Of course, 10-minute race 2 will fly by very quickly. We're probably only going to see 6 laps of racing, so much as we see in real life support races with the similar cars to these, the Aussie racing cars, around about 6-7 lap races is the sort of time frame we're going to see for these cars. As Green will cross the line and he'll get a personal best, shoot him up into third, but still a long way off Reece Gardner. That first lap looks like it is an absolute lightning of a lap, although Brett Loxton purples the first sector right now.
So does this make this the support series to the support series to the main series?
Don't get too confusing. You know I get confused too easily. But no, we've got 4 support categories throughout the season. This and of course the trucks making up the trucking legends.
Well, that's this one, isn't it?
This is the trucking legends. The two series will match up in regards to championship points.
Oh yes.
And then we've got the V8s and the flat sixes. The flat sixes will feature at the next round at Mossport in 3 weeks' time, which you won't be there for. But that'll be very, very fun and very, very strong field so far. Entries are still open for all of the support categories as well. So shoot a message to the V8SCOPS Facebook page if you are wanting to get involved, or jump onto the iRacing forums in the AusNZ section if you can. Brett Loxton, no lap time once again.
I won't be there unless Melbourne shut their borders again. So Brett Loxton, still no time on the board. We'll go back and look at Nick Skraev. I always forget. He's even a commentator. I forget how to do his name.
He's in the box with us too. He's actually listening in.
Sorry, Nick. As he comes in, you can see now he jumps on the brakes. So a good 200 meters later than the V8, they're jumping on the brakes. And that's because they're only doing about 170 kilometers an hour at the end of the straight. And low-powered cars are often the ones you look at as being the slipstream fest. The Pro 2s that we see on a Tuesday night, the Mazdas we often see being a bit like that as well. No lap that time from Nick. Keep it between the lines, buddy. As Ryan Ducati McCarthy, we haven't seen him in the V8, but we will see him in this. Just seen Matt Stevens pop into the server as well, so we're going to see him pulling double duty. As McCarthy's got a car alongside. That's John Sorensen. These two are teammates. 2:02.2 from McCarthy. No time from Sorensen.
And I'm sure we'll see Ducati and McCarthy tomorrow in the major series, potentially, in the Daytona 500, the retro Daytona 500 tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be finished by this time tomorrow. Going to be a very, very interesting race, that one. But this qualifying session, not as exciting as we saw with that one in the V8s, but
that's top.
I mean, that's probably one of the best qualifying sessions we've ever seen. But this second, third, fourth little battle is was very interesting. As Daniel Stevens just absolutely ruins the field by setting his personal best. Now only 1 second behind us. Brett Loxton goes P2 just behind him. Just said it was going to be hard to top. Well, these guys are working on it.
Goes P3 in the number 2. No one can get near Reece Gardner though. What a lap from the number 94. And it seemed that Reece has done a lot of practice in this legend car to be competitive, and it is paying off. Corey Kitchen running in 8th. 2-minute .634 in front of him. Nick Skraev, a 2-minute 624. Nothing to separate those two. Well, there's 100th of a second to separate those two, but that's not much. Out onto the back straight. A pretty boring ride down the back straight, if I'm going to be honest with you. 170 kilometers an hour from about now, right into the braking zone.
Big thing too, you change into top gear at about 170 and you only gain another 10 k's an hour by the end of the straight. So there's not a huge amount that goes on when you hit that final gear.
He moved about a lot under the brakes there. Just noticed that from the onboard. Having put a lot of wheel work in under the brakes, and maybe not quite as stable as they, as one would hope for in the braking zone. Something to watch out for, as he does jump.
Not a bad lap there for Kitchen. We also saw that Skraev and Green also did PBs, as Sorensen also does a PB as well. So personal best coming in everywhere. Matt Stevens, the only driver in the session at the moment to not post a lap time.
He is on track though.
Yes, he is.
And he's just behind Brett Loxton. He's got quite a sparkly grill, in fact. In fact, I think that's Tom O'Connor with the sparkly grill. Here comes Loxton out of last corner, past the wall of champions. Can Loxton spring a late surprise on Reese Gardner? 56.83 to beat. 57.17 his marker. He's 3/10 away. That's close. That's competitive. Matt Stevens was a big competitor and the race winner in the V8, so 58.0 will put him fourth with his one and only effort in the Legends. That's ominous for him with just one lap. Tom O'Connor's lap was not validated. He will start no higher than 6th. Whoa, what did you see, Jay?
Well, I just saw Anthony Green stopped at the exit of the hairpin, but now I worked out what he's doing. He's actually practicing the starts. Now, I would think that he's probably the only driver in the session at the moment that has actually thought about practicing the starts. In saying that, Skraev's just done the same thing, so he's probably just heard us say that in the background.
Yeah, he has. I was going to say, probably, hang on. I was riding on ball with Anthony Green, and I just saw a car dart right, and then I saw a stationary car as well. The dangers of stopping in the middle of a back straight. Who would have thought? So we've got a minute and a half till the timer runs up on this session, but I'm pretty sure everyone's done their lap. Tregarthen's going to cross the line here. He should improve on a 2:07. He will. But where will it put him?
Nice lap.
Yeah, up to 9th, to 59.266. Ducati McCarthy, 2:09. Stays 12th, but everyone has set times, and 12 Legends are going to be fun for 10 minutes at Montreal. So, let's take a look at our starting grid for our 10-minute sprint race in the Trucking Legends. Reese Gardner has himself a pole position, and Brett Loxton will start alongside him. Daniel Stevens and Matt Stevens on row 2. Reese Harnell and Tom O'Connor start 5th and 6th. John Sorensen and Anthony Green on row 4. Nathan Tregarthen and Nick Skraev on row 5. Corey Kitchen, Ryan Ducati McCarthy on row 6. And then those two cars you see there, Ben Christensen, Henry King, are race control. So Jay, who's your money on?
Hard to go past Reese with that pace he's got, Reese Gardner that is, because he was so far in front of everyone else, and that was on his first lap, so it's going to be tough to be beaten at this point, but you never can count some of these drivers out in this race. Brett Loxton, we know, very, very skilled driver, very, very competitive racer. This is going to be very, very cool to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing the battle between Loxton, Green, Gardner, and even Daniel Stevens as well. Could throw a curveball into the mix too. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
All I can hope is that these cars are more lively than our other low-powered friends on SimSpeed TV, the Skip Barbers. Those things will walk away from the line. It's always anticlimactic to start a race with the Skippies. Just a little bit. But we saw some definite tyre smoke when we saw those practice starts, didn't we? So it should be fun. We saw some pretty poor starts from pole, from Tyler Bowen earlier on in the aborted race and the actual race. What can Reese Gardner do? He's got a lot of pressure on him to not bottle it. I'm not putting extra pressure on him because he has deafened himself in Discord. He's not feeling that heat from us.
Nick can hear us though.
Yeah, no pressure, Nick. The sun shines over the Montreal circuit as time goes 3, 2, 1. Hit the revs, hit the throttle, rise the revs, see the lights, and let's get ourselves a green flag for the Trucking Legends. Away we go. What a tyre smoke. A good start from the second row of the grid. Pretty even on row 1. They're going to be 2x2 on approach. Loxton trying to squeeze Gardner. Loxton's going to have the inside for turn 2. Gardner caught on the outside. Brett Loxton to the lead of the race. Daniel Stevens putting himself into third. Matt Stevens settling for fourth. Can Gardner keep himself in the fight around the outside of turn 4? These cars are very small. Easy to go side by side. And Gardner proves it with a great fight back. But a slip up on the exit there, Jay.
Huge
Cost
slide
it.
from Gardner.
And then contact with Daniel Stevens almost sends him to the Armco. But unlike Hayden Veld, he catches it. Keeps it off the Armco.
Oh no! Contact between Matt Stevens and Reese Gardner.
He's in the
Reese is
Armco.
in the wall. Unfortunate for Reese there. That was just a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. He'll continue on. But Matt Stevens gone from 4th up into 2nd place now because he's gone straight past the car of Daniel Stevens. And just behind Reese Harnell, Tom O'Connor going at it as well.
I shouldn't have said he avoided the Armco because he went straight into it
as soon as you said that.
That was a really unfortunate start for Reese Gardner. It was
I'll
a
tell Reese
fantastic
it's your
fight
fault.
back on the outside of Cheers, on the outside of the first chicane, but it's still on here for 4th place. Reese Harnell defending from Tom O'Connor, looking to lunge around the outside and get the power down onto the back straight already. There's only 8.5 minutes left in this sprint race. Let's see how the draft works. Loxton's got himself a good advantage thanks to Gardner's mishap. 1.3 seconds over Matt Stevens and Daniel Stevens behind him. Then comes Harnell, O'Connor, Sorensen. And then a little gap back to Anthony Green. No moves being made into turn 13 this lap.
Top speed for Loxton was 181. Matt Stevens, Daniel Stevens, who were drafting together. As I just see in the background, I believe that's Nick Scariev in the wall. We're hitting 183, so not a huge advantage that the guys have got down the straight, but that was a fairly heavy hit for Nick Scariev.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Oh no.
That's contact, and around goes the bright purple machine of Anthony Green. Hey, that rhymes. And the 308 cycles himself to the back of the field, just behind Nicholas Skraev, head of Corey Kitchen. Where is Reese Gardner got to? He's just ahead of Skraev.
Yeah, so he just got past Skraev. Coming into
John
turn
Sorensen.
1. Yeah, Sorensen around at the exit of turn 4. Continue on though. Gap at the front, 1.6 seconds. And we'll see what happens with that gap over the next couple of moments because, well, in saying that, Matt Stevens taken 2/10 out of Brett Loxton in the last little bit. What I was about to say when I was talking before about the top speeds is Matt Stevens, Daniel Stevens almost need to work together, almost bump draft down the back straight and try and close that gap and get back into the draft. See if they can close that down. Reese Harnell, Tom O'Connor probably a little bit too far back now. They're going to have to battle themselves.
This is on. Heading into the hairpin. O'Connor again on the outside, though. This is almost a carbon copy of lap 1. This time he sets himself up differently. Goes for the crossover. But Harnell did a really good job of defending that. He let himself drift out wide and just applied the throttle. Let the car run out wide against the fence. And it allowed him to get a really good exit. Just like O'Connor. We're seeing with that draft, he shouldn't be able to just slingshot by him. Not finding any advantage. He finds 2 extra kilometers. It's nothing. Not enough to gain. These cars just simply can't go any quicker than 183 kilometers an hour, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like that's absolute top speed. No more left in it. So all of the advantage you've got's got to be down at lower end. So when you're in 3rd, 4th gear, by the time you get up to top gear, there's nothing else left in the cars. Brett Loxton did get a bit of an advantage in that last sector, around about 0.4 of a second quicker in the last sector, and now he's out to a 2.3 second lead. But Harnell, O'Connor, and now Tregarthen closing as well. This 4th, 5th, 6th battles where it's at. Reese Gardner, though, has closed in a little bit, as there's another car around. That's Matt Stevens from 2nd place.
And that really gives a lead to Brett Loxton. Steady with the rejoin.
Glad you got as nervous as I did then.
They're struggling for traction in these Legends. Low power, but apparently low grip as well. Here's the replay thanks to VRS. Jay, talk us through it.
Yeah, so actually, before we even got up to the chicane, I just bounced it through turn 3, bounced it over the curb and unsettled the car. But before that, in that little run between the hairpin and turn 3, it was actually weaving down the straight. So, not sure if he just wasn't feeling comfortable with the way the car's behaving. Of course, this series is a fixed setup series. No real adjustments available to the drivers to change how the car behaves. So, really have to drive these cars like you stole them, and what you've got is what you've got. But Stephen's recovering, gets back into 7th position as he gets past Ryan McCarthy, but Ryan decides that he isn't done with this one yet.
Maybe he picks up on what you picked up on earlier and thought maybe the car isn't driving straight, and we're trying to figure it out because you just can't quite shake the feeling, and you hate it when you feel like something's not quite right.
Yeah, the front wheels are definitely skewed a tiny little bit to the right. Probably about...
I can see it from Shopperham, and I absolutely hate it.
Yep. So
it's driving me nuts.
It's definitely there, so you can see it a little bit with the cars down the front straight here as well. You can see that the front wheels are definitely skewed a little bit to the right.
Race. Gardner had just caught Tregarthen, and now he's got to slow down.
Yep.
And Tregarthen spun it in the exit of turn 1.
All by himself. Now, just noticing too, the lap times will mean that we're going to be very, very close to only being white flag next lap. We probably will get 2 more. But it'll be very, very borderline. So we'll see whether we're last lap, next lap, or the one following. But Brett Loxton now 5-second advantage in this race. It's a huge lead for him at this point.
With the sun setting, we're getting close to a night race for the second V8 race.
Yep. It's been very, very cleverly prepared in regards to timing for each session, so that we'll see a natural progression of the sunlight throughout the event. So we'll start late afternoon and we'll finish just as the sun's setting for our last race in each race. So just seeing Corey Kitchen come back into the pits again. So 2 from 2 in coming back in the pits. Not sure as to why that is, but we'll hopefully find out from race control, who will be listening in.
Hopefully he didn't jump the start like he did in the V8. He's disconnected from the race this time. Yeah. Well, he's got one more chance to not do a drive into the pit lane. Brett Loxton out front will give us 2 laps to go when he comes across the line.
Yeah, based on his lap times, it should be 2 to go. Gardner back to 3 seconds behind Tom O'Connor, so we'll see if he can close that gap down. But yeah, Loxton should pass the line with more than 1:55 left on the clock. Be around about 2 minutes and 4 seconds, I'm going to guess. No, I'm a bit out there.
Yeah, just a bit.
2 minutes 7. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes 8, but you're close enough. That is us behind the scenes. So Reese Gardner up into P5 is a good recovery. And he will be ruining what he's lost in this race. He could have given the fight to Loxton. But just lap 1, disastrous. Playing catch-up, impossible in a 10-minute race. Going further back, on board with Nicholas Skreyev, another driver having to play catch-up. He's got to the back of Anthony Green and Takadia McCarthy.
Oh, look at that sunlight. That's what we're going to cop in the final race of the V8s as well, which won't be far away as well. Of course, remember, the grid for the final race of V8s will be the finishing order from the last V8 races. Matt Stevens has another spin at the same corner, and there's another car around as well. That's Skreyev, so he went off straight after we saw Matt Stevens facing the wrong way.
Let's get a replay on board with Skreyev. I reckon he's spun in reaction to...
I think you're right.
Stevens. Nick, did Stevens scare you?
Maybe we scared him with our reaction. Oh.
Oh!
That was a big hit.
What a shunt for Stevens and Skreyev.
Oh, he hit the grass on the outside as he went to go around him.
Yeah, I think Nick was having his own semi-slide, and he would have had it caught, but when he saw Stevens on the inside, he just overcorrected a bit and ended up spinning around.
Gardner just got through on Tom O'Connor just as we were coming back from the replay in the hairpin, so he's now up into 4th position. just seeing change of position here with Matt Stevens and John Sorensen.
Oh, Nick! Did you see the back of the shot?
Yeah,
It's
I
gone
just saw
around
it.
again.
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't want to focus on it, but you brought attention to it, so I'll blame you.
I'm cruel. I'm cruel like that. As we head on to the final lap of the Trucking Legends first race of the season. Next race will be in the Trucks. This race is obviously in the Legends. It's a 6-second, make that a 7-second advantage for Brett Loxton over Daniel Stevens after his competitors just keep falling out of the way behind him. Reese Harnell in third. Should be comfortable. Reese Gardner's probably got too much to do on this final lap to somehow reclaim a podium after nabbing himself the pole. Tom O'Connor sitting in 5th behind him, Tregarthen in 6th, Ducati McCarthy 7th, Green, Sorensen. They've all spread themselves out for this final lap, and Scrave's actually got a bit of damage to his car. He's missing the right rear fender. Only car that's damaged out there.
Reese Gardner right behind Reese Harnell now, so this is going to be a really tight battle all the way to the checkered flag. Gardner, we know he's got great pace last lap, 2.3 seconds faster than Harnell. And I'm going to say that this is just in the background there. Tom O'Connor has a little bit of a spin. Gardner's going to get this done before the exit
Turns out,
of the casino hairpin.
not too much for Gardner to do on the final lap here.
Oh,
Wrong side of the track, he needs a crossover. Needs it to work well. Harnell balks him on the mid-quarter to stop it, but Gardner realised pretty quickly and just decided to power around the outside of him. And he should win that drag race down to the final corner with no slingshot in play. Brett Loxton, though, all by himself, is going to come into the final chicane for the final time. And from second on the grid, Brett Loxton comes out and to the main straight and to the start-finish line. Brett Loxton wins Trucking Legends Race 1 for third. They were side by side into the last corner. Gardner wins out.
it was a cool little race, that one, wasn't it? It was very, very entertaining and great comeback from Reese Gardner after those incidents. Matt Stevens decided after that incident that he had in the wall, he couldn't continue on. His car was way too heavily damaged. Tregarthen holds on for 5th position. Tom O'Connor back in 6th in the end. So, good recovery from a few drivers that were having issues. Nathan Tregarthen, that was a really good recovery.
Some big movers in that race. And we did see an interesting thing there. If you are close enough together, that slipstream and slingshot will work. It did work for Reese Harnell, but unfortunately, just couldn't get around him at the chicane. Oh, they are some good smoke signals that Brett Loxton is sending up in celebration of that. Here's your full results then. 41 seconds covering the top 10. A lot of drivers struggling in that race for grip. A lot of spins and a lot of mistakes. A well-deserved race win for Loxton. Pretty much ran through your top 10 on that last lap, didn't we? In fact, they were the only 10 on the lead lap in at the end. And then Matt Stevens finished 11th ahead of Corey Kitchen in 12th. 2 and 3 laps down. And that will do us for the Legends. Now we go back to the V8. Time for race 2 of the V8s from Montreal. Go for one last quick break on the other side of this. Racers back in the comms. Welcome back to Montreal. We are getting set for race 2 of the V8SCOPS Racing Sims Support Series. Ryan Jones here. I've got Reese Gardner back alongside me. Jay Kennedy kept the seat warm, and Reese says it's very warm.
Yeah, well, especially after getting out of the cockpit of that Legends car, I broke a bit of a sweat having to recover from that lap 1 incident, but I ended up having fun, and I'm looking forward to getting back in the box and seeing another V8 race, because the last one was pretty cool.
It was. It really was. And the best thing about it, Reese, is we saw a lot of storylines emerge towards the end. A lot of drivers with a lot of pace that should develop properly into a battle in this race.
Yeah, certainly. Henry King among them. He started from the back of the grid after the restart in race 1 and then fought his way back up to P5, so look out for him from that row.
Something we briefly spoke about while you were deafening yourself in a Discord. I'm like, Nick, who we abused through Discord, so you made the wise choice, was the setting sun in the Legends race, noting it was getting close to a night race for the V8s. It's 7:43 p.m. in sim time. The sun is low in the sky and bright in the eyes coming out of turn 2.
Wow, yeah, Brett Hender getting an eyeful of that sun. Hender's going to want to make some improvements. He put on a very good drive in the first race of the night, but he gets to reset it all and go for it again. Thanks to that setting sun, the track temperature has gone way down. It's now at 20 degrees, so we're going to be seeing some quick times, especially at the start.
Luckily, there's no qualifying session to see weirdly quick lap times shake up the order, or maybe unluckily, because that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, certainly.
But I am intrigued to see how Matt Stevens goes, and how a lot of our drivers go that have pulled double duty. They had to adjust to the Legends car. Now they've got to readjust themselves to the V8. What do you think is the harder one to adjust to? Going from a V8 to a Legend, or going from the Legend back to the V8?
Legend back to the V8, definitely, because I mean the Legends car, it is quite stiff, it is quite twitchy, but you have much shorter braking distances and everything happens a bit more in slow motion. It's also a smaller car, so you can end up taking a bit more of the curbs than you initially think you can in the Legends. Jumping back into the V8, it's big, it's heavy, it's got oodles more power. So I think it's going to be very hard to adjust to for some of these drivers.
That is the warm-up done. Let's get ready to go racing. Here's your quick fire starting grid for race 2 of the V8s. Matt Stevens has the pole. Liam Tipping charged hard. He will start second alongside him. This is how they finished race 1, by the way, to set this grid. Tyler Bowen, Aaron Gilbert, 3rd and 4th. Henry King starts 5th after qualifying 2nd, but starting from the back of the grid. He has a lot of pace in that machine. Gavin Cox is 6th after qualifying 2nd and going backwards. Starting 2nd and going backwards, he qualified 3rd. Brett Hender, Jason Spriggs, 7th and 8th. Mizomo 9th, Vela 10th.
Tom O'Connor's going to start from 11th alongside Reese Harnell, and then it's Anthony Green and Nick Skariev on row 7. Corey Kitchen and Nathan Tregarthen take up the final 2 grid spots, and they'll both be looking for some redemption after some bad luck in that first race. Let's see who gets off the line properly this time.
The front row of Stevens and Tippy is all noise, because the revs rise, the lights come on, the lights go out. And we go racing in Montreal for the last time tonight. Great start from the front row. Stevens, another fantastic launch. Bad one from Tipping. Bowen's caught in the middle of 3 wide to turn 1. He locks the rear, slides, and not him spinning. Instead, from the inside goes Henry King. Oh,
all the way back to the rear of the field. My goodness, that's terrible for Henry.
All that work goes down the drain. Bowen struggling still with the rears through 3. And through 4, Tregarthen, remember, he went a lap down and was caught there for the entire race. He had to start from the back for this one. He'll want to work his way forward as we go back up the order on board with Simon Mizomo as around and into the Armco barrier goes Brett Hender.
That's a big shame there for Brett, just on the throttle a little too hard as the chicane opened up. The rear spun up and there was nothing he could do to recover it. Cold tyres, cold track, that's what happens.
Chris Hyle looking up the inside in the background of Anthony Green, pulls off that move superbly. Tregarthen thought he could get a sniff as well, but it didn't quite work out for him. Frantic opening lap. And Matt Stevens has himself a nice advantage from Liam Tipping, Tyler Bowen, Aaron Gilbert, Simon Mizomo's found himself 4 spots on the opening lap.
That's a great run from Simon, taking advantage of all of that chaos, and he's got a nice gap to the cars behind himself. No pressure from Gavin Cox for now. He's got Aaron Gilbert and Tyler Bowen up ahead, and they're fighting for 3rd place. Liam Tipping has the gap just ahead of them. Lap 1 complete, and it is 1.8 seconds, the gap from Matt Stevens to Liam Tipping. A good start there for Stevens. Let's see if he can hold on to it.
Bit confused by King's spin as all. Vela gets it all. Oh, Tregarthen got it a lot more wrong. I thought Vela got it all wrong, but Tregarthen got it even worse. It's going to replay that.
Yeah, goodness me. He was properly backing it into that first turn and suffered a slowdown as a result of that, cutting across the first turn. Tell you what, Anthony Green was incredibly lucky because here's what happened to him. Just got on the brakes coming into turn 1 and the rear's locked. He just
you can see Vela's. Yeah, you can see Vela's tracks in the foreground from his mistake, and then Tregarthen just said, "I'll one-up you on that race."
Yeah, my goodness. Well, good thing he's managed to keep that going. Henry King is starting to recover, by the way, as we take a look a bit further back here.
Another replay.
This is what happened to Brett Hender. Just the rears broke loose, man. That's very frustrating, I think, for Brett. Because you'd think that the car would stick out of there in a straight line, but just a microslide that got exacerbated.
Yeah, you'd think. It didn't work. Reacted like the olden day car there, didn't it? As Vela has a look at O'Connor, just filling the mirrors into turn 13. Maybe hoping to force O'Connor deeper into the braking zone so that Vela can get the better exit. It doesn't work out for him. That's a slowdown for Tyler Bowen.
Oh, yeah.
That cost him a lot of time. In fact, he's going to fall behind Jason Spriggs. He's alongside him. He's got the inside for turn 2. O'Connor's made a mistake at turn 2 behind them and overcooked it. That's allowed Vela up his inside. He'll have the preferred line into turn 3. He should take this spot away. Can O'Connor fight it? No, he can't.
That's the move complete for Simon Vela. Interesting to note that Jason Spriggs, I think, has joined in the wrong car. He's in the Falcon and not the Commodore like he was in race 1. So that's going to be something that's throwing him off ever so slightly. But he's still got quite the gap to that pack. Vela, O'Connor and Harnell behind. So let's see what he can do. Tyler Bowen, of course, just up ahead and still recovering from that slowdown we saw at the start of the lap. Around the rest of the circuit, seems like some big gaps throughout the field, and this battle here for 8th on back is the closest we've got at the moment. Oh, Vela almost overcooking it there into the chicane, but late apexes, straight lines the exit, gets himself a bit more of a gap there over Tom O'Connor, leaves O'Connor and Harnell to fight over the scraps of that particular battle.
Looking back from Simon Vela's perspective, you can see the gap that he's generated over Tom O'Connor since he made that move, and you can see how close that Reese Harnell is as they bounce and hop their way over the curbs. And Harnell is not quite close enough to O'Connor to make that one stick into turn 1.
Tell you what, Harnell's really keeping O'Connor honest back here, and we should also keep our eyes on Tyler Bowen as well, because he's starting to get into a rhythm of his own, catch up to Gavin Cox just up ahead of all these guys.
Yeah, Gavin Cox working well, but not well enough. Tyler Bowen wants his spot back.
Cox currently in P5. but Bowen encroaching on him at every single braking zone, very aggressive over the curbs, and there is a move that is getting past there. Tom O'Connor by Reese Harnell. Looked like a pretty easy move done. Bowen still behind Cox though. And it looks like this is going to be a move either into the chicane or turn 1. Ooh, slight technical issue there for Tyler Bowen. That's not going to fill him with much confidence, is it?
Coincided perfectly with a big click of the keyboard from Jay.
You don't need to apologise, Jay. Goodness me.
I've trained him well.
A little bit of a mistake from Gavin Cox on the exit of the chicane there. So that's going to potentially open the door to Tyler Bowen. We're right on board with Mr. Bowen himself. Has a brief look up the inside into turn 1, but a bit too far back to make the move work. He's going to have to work his way through the twisty back half of this circuit, which, you know, it is very twisty, but it tends to lend itself pretty well to racing. Actually, speaking of racing, the lead is on again. I think Matt Stevens got a slowdown somewhere down the line. Liam Tipping right on the back of him. And Aaron Gilbert is starting to catch up too.
He must have on the previous lap at the final chicane, because that last lap was invalidated. And this gives Tipping the incentive he needed. He was just off the back of him. And Mizoma got one as well because he dropped some time. He wasn't that far off Gilbert, so he'll be disappointed by that.
Yeah, certainly will.
He's got Cox all over the back of him.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough job to try and get that time back, but we know what these guys can do. They surprised us in qualifying. Some of them surprised us in the first race. I'm sure we're going to see a few more shocks in this one. Matt Stevens, though, getting back on the rhythm and starting to leave Liam Tipping behind again. Had a brief shot at taking the lead, did Tipping, but not so. O'Connor and Arnold still going at it at the back end of the top 10.
Yeah. Very good battle happening right here at the back end of the top 10. Stevens, I'm still keeping an eye on this, though, at the front. 37.8 for Tipping on that lap. Stevens was Dylan validated, and O'Connor's got himself back through on this. Where do we look?
Yeah,
Well, this one's side by side for now. Harnell trying to come back at O'Connor. He's got the inside for one. They're locking up. Oh, it's just a car's width gap there for O'Connor to stick his car back in. This is fantastic stuff, and Henry King's watching on. He'll want to get by both of them soon because he's got the pace to do so. Sunkist racetrack. Two cars off the road. One car around.
Whoa!
Oh, he caught it! Yay! Catch. But it cost him 2 spots.
Oh man, that was a heart and mouth moment there for Henry King, but that is one free position, and just goes to show that it's all about luck. As oh no, that is Tyler Bowen with a spin out of the chicane.
No! Talking about luck.
Righto. We'll have to take another look at that, thanks to our partners at Virtual Racing School. Wondering if this was the same sort of thing that happened to Brett Hender on lap 1.
Just Twigger on the throttle.
Yep. And if Tyler had waited just a couple more seconds, then this wouldn't have happened. Tom O'Connor minding his own business out of there. Oh, he got a bit of oversteer on, and he could have afforded to be a bit further left there, but nonetheless, Tyler Bowen reversing back onto the racing line a little too early.
Really, really unlucky for Tom O'Connor. And I don't think that's too bad from Tyler Bowen, because
Nah.
he would have expected him to be on the racing line. It should have been safe, but unfortunately there was a mistake from O'Connor. He wasn't on the racing line. In the end, the blame will be with Bowen, but it's not quite as silly as something we've seen as some things we've seen in the past.
No, certainly not.
Ooh, headlights.
There we go. The sun is low enough in the sky that the Lord has said, "Let there be light," and behold.
You need those headlights. That sun's dipped behind the trees and it is getting dark out there. We're only lap 7 to 20. It gets dark quickly when it gets dark in iRacing. As in real life.
Yes, indeed. If it was like it wasn't in real life, I'd be a bit concerned. But Liam Tipping chasing down Matt Stevens. The track temperature staying pretty stable at 20 degrees Celsius at the moment. And it looks like these drivers at the front really liking these conditions. This is some of the most consistent driving I've seen from the front runners.
Yeah. Hey, Jay, oh, wrong timing. At some point, can we please acknowledge with a camera shot the windshield sponsors of that Racing Oz car that Tipping's got? I love it. As we take a look at this battle further back.
Tregarthen and O'Connor keeping each other very good company here, and I think O'Connor dealing with a bit of damage from that incident with Tyler Bowen. Hasn't seemed to harm his pace too much versus Nathan. But he's keeping with him in the draft, at least. Still has someone to battle with in this field.
A couple tenths between them. 5 tenths between the leaders. Remember at the end of race 1, Tipping was very consistent and Stevens very inconsistent. Wonder if we will see the same trend in this race. Oh, if we look from the gearbox of Stevens' car right now, see if we can spot. Oh, the headlights are going to ruin it. Oh no!
Oh, would you look at that? Apparently, we have decals on the cars that we are meant to put on there because Racing Sim sponsor this series.
Love your Racing Sim. That wasn't what I was getting at, but love your Racing Sim. Oh, it's on the headlights. There you go.
Ah, righto.
JTIT. Now, I'm just saying, the way it's formatted is a bit off.
Just a little bit. But I think that's going to be the last thing on these drivers' minds, because Tipping is still putting in some fantastic pieces of driving here and keeping Matt Stevens very honest. This is uncharacteristic, because Matt Stevens, remember in race 1, yes, he was inconsistent, but he was still pulling away. Liam Tipping, I think something has switched for him, and he's right on it here in these cooler conditions.
He's liking... There you go.
There it is again.
I don't think that was an unintentional choice either. By the curator of that company. That was wide from Stevens. He has to defend into turn 6. Tipping might want to start using some Morse code. Rear end lights up. He almost makes the same mistake we've seen twice and he gets a bump. He does get the Morse code out.
Here we go then. It's going to be a big challenge here into the chicane a bit later on the brakes and on the racing line for Tipping, but Stevens protecting the inside. He's overshot the second part of the chicane, but keeps Tipping behind him, crucially. But if he leaves the door open at the hairpin, Liam will easily get through, and you see Matt Stevens already going defensive there, side by side, into the hairpin. And Stevens stays ahead at the apex. Almost went belly up for him. Oh, and for Tipping, taking a little bit too much curb on the exit there. Went for a slide.
See that on lap 1 as well from him?
Yes, we saw it on lap 1, and I think we saw it from him in race 1, definitely. Unless I'm getting my drivers confused, which I usually do. Tipping very aggressive into the hairpin.
Cost him on the exit, unfortunately.
Tell you what, this is helping out Aaron Gilbert, because he's been sitting behind these guys for a while, and if Tipping keeps pushing the way he is, my goodness, he's so aggressive into the corners.
Really trying to maximize his entry. The last lap for those two are pretty much identical, 38.5s, 37.7 for Gilbert.
Yeah, we could see a proper three-way battle for the lead pretty soon. And at the end of this lap, we will have covered half race distance. Already a lot has happened in this race. We still have the best yet to come, I reckon. Unfortunately for Tom O'Connor, I think he's gotten another slowdown because he's had to yield to Nathan Tregarthen again. A bit down the road from these guys. And oh no. That's very slow for Tom O'Connor. I'm wondering what happened to him there.
Well, Virtual Racing School will tell us.
Okay, so that's the slowdown coming out of turn 2. And now he slows right down out of the chicane for some reason. I'm sure that he did not spin. Looks like he just jammed on the brakes. Maybe the slowdown was taking a while to clear.
It can happen sometimes. It just doesn't want to clear itself, and you've got to give up a lot to get it to go away. Of course, now we have the timer, so you can really leave it late. But when it gets down to 5, 4, 3, you've got to slam on that brake pedal. 1.5 seconds at the line to cover our top 3. 37.176, 37.140, 37.439. So Gilbert lost a bit of ground that time. The top 2 not fighting anymore.
Indeed, and I'm noticing that that both of our top 2, they're both having slight issues on the entry into corners. I mean, we see Liam Tipping going for the early turn-in on most corners. Matt Stevens going for a late turn-in. I noticed a bit of oversteer from him on the entry into turn 1 and a bit more oversteer on the exit for Matt Stevens of that chicane. So he's going to have to be careful of his rear tyres. If he makes too much of a mistake, Tipping's just going to jet right back up to him. Have a look once again, so aggressive into the chicane, and whoa, big old slide. I love watching these cars go 10 tenths around Montreal. Really shows off how these cars can move around.
Just a bucket load of that right foot, giving that oversteer off the corners for these drivers. They're so close, but they're also evenly matched. I think Tipping's the most consistent of the bunch, but he's not as quick as Stevens. He's relying on those mistakes from Stevens to get him close enough to make those moves. He's just not been able to capitalize those times he has been right there. That could be a slowdown. He was really, really aggressive across the curb that time.
Yeah, indeed he was. Matt Stevens weaving to try and break the draft, and Liam Tipping taking a very sedentary entry into turn 1. That's definitely a slowdown for him. Maybe a slowdown for Aaron Gilbert as well. So that's completely killed the top 3 battle right there. No time last lap for Aaron Gilbert or Liam Tipping.
Well, unless Stevens makes the same mistake, which would not go against previous form we've seen from him tonight. Not being the most consistent. There's almost having a lonely race in P4. See there, he's 3.4 seconds away now from Aaron Gilbert. And he's a couple seconds up the road from Cox, who's no longer behind him.
Yeah, and it looks like Cox is on his own too, because Spriggs and Vella battling for 6th and 7th now, just behind these guys, and it looks like Vella is the one with the time advantage. He was 2 tenths faster than Spriggs on the last lap, and he's definitely going to have a go at him now, because that was a big oversteer moment into the chicane. Give him a little bit of an extra opportunity to fling one up the inside. It's probably not going to happen here, but I think it's only a matter of time here for Jason Spriggs, because we know how aggressive Vella can be on the brakes. Remember that last lap pass for the 10th spot.
That was ballsy, wasn't it? And I think we might see a move this time.
Oh yeah.
Pulling to the right. And he should complete this pretty easily, actually. Into the braking zone. Preferred line. Spriggs will yield.
Oh, but Vella got compromised in the middle of the chicane. Almost handed it back to Spriggs, but just keeping ahead. There's not really much of an opportunity to get a run when you're immediately out of the chicane. You've got to take care because the wall is right there on the right-hand side. And Vella a bit too aggressive into turn 1. He overshoots turn 2 slightly. Almost gives the opportunity back to Spriggs again. But there's going to be no move that time round. So I think Vella safe for now, but probably not for long.
Good 3-car fight. They keep popping up. Henry King's back in it after just a night that's not going his way. He's had so much pace, probably the quickest driver out there. But for whatever reason, cannot keep himself at the front of a field, can he?
Yeah, reminds me of me a little bit.
Pole position.
Yeah.
Leading through turn 2.
Yeah.
Dead last after turn 4.
Stop.
What a disappointing result. Almost had a podium as well, but only fourth.
No,
King's
I
off.
finished on the podium as... oh, yes, definitely. King there. Making a big mistake at the hairpin and losing all of that time. So Vela and Spriggs back on their own again. I think that's been the problem with Henry King. He has had the pace, for sure, but I think just consistency and these little errors lap to lap are really compromising him.
I think you applied for that change as subject. Yeah, they are. He's been a bit like Matt Stevens, but to a more extreme level. He's making mistakes that are much more compromising than Matt Stevens. Maybe it's because his pace is a bit better. He's taking more risks and not paying off. And Stevens found the compromise a little bit better. That is a compromised situation for Nicholas Graev.
Manages to get going, but not without giving the wall another kiss. That's happened on the entry to the back straight. So I'm thinking that he might have gotten a bit too much curb on the exit of the hairpin and spun it. Let's have a look at the VRS replay and find out. Yep, there we go. A little bit too much grass for the left-hand side tyres and head on into the wall. That's a great amount of damage there for Nick Skariev, and he will not be able to operate at his maximum from here. We do see on plenty of occasions there are cars that look quite heavily damaged in these races, as Henry King once again on the exit of the hairpin is just not able to pull it up. Maybe something about these cooler conditions that has compromised him a little bit. The track is still at 20 degrees, so no change from the start, but yeah, Henry King just looks uncomfortable right now.
He'll be pretty unhappy with how his night's gone. He'll be starting to get really hot under the collar, I suspect, as well. And then that can just escalate things only for the worse. And you start making even more errors that just didn't need to be made. So, lap 15 of 20, 6 laps to go in this race, or 5.5 laps, based off where Matt Stevens is now. 2 seconds ahead of tipping. Just keep it clean, don't make a mistake, and he should be home free. It's not that easy, though. Last lap for tipping was 4/10 slower than Stevens. So he had actually reeled it in a little bit, but Stevens with a good lap there. Let's see, is he as inconsistent as he was in the previous race? Not quite, but he's... if he starts a pattern of what he did the last 2 laps, he's going to get there again. 37.7, 37.2.
Yes, indeed. And this has looked like a pretty clean lap so far for Matt Stevens. Up where he's used to being in the V8s. At least from tonight's standard, at least. Once again, he's making this wildcard entry count for everything as there's a big incident at the hairpin. Henry King has managed to get past those 2 cars finally, but at what cost to Jason Spriggs and Simon Vela? They obviously came together somehow.
At what cost? Vela spun by himself, and Spriggs just had to jab on the brakes, and King was luckily far enough back to just drive around them. Take a look at this. So Vela all by himself just pinches the reins, you can see it. Swing to the left and then back to the right, and around he goes, and yeah.
Good awareness there from Spriggs. You could see that he just stopped short of hitting Vela, so very good reaction times. Unfortunately, both of them losing a position, and Henry King finally getting ahead of them as he'd been threatening to do so for some time.
1.7, 1.4. 3/10 quicker on the previous lap. So... bit of a fluctuation again from Stevens. Tipping's not as consistent anymore, though. His race isn't as clean as it was in race 1, so can't commend him on that front, but he's hanging in there. He's still in with a shot. You know how easy it is to make a mistake at this place, and not even a mistake, just a slight misjudgment of your line can cost you a couple seconds of the slowdown at this last corner.
Yeah, and in these cars, the entire first sector of the track going through chicane after chicane, it's basically just one long corner. So you really got to get into a good rhythm around the first half of this racetrack if you want to be fast. Oh, that was almost too much curb there for tipping. You can never quite tell from the outside whether or not it's going to be a slowdown because, I mean, the drivers just go through there so quickly and... Oh, take care, tipping. Big oversteer moment into turn 1. Looks like the brake bias might just be a bit too far to the rear for him there.
He's on the edge, but he's trying. He's trying his best. Cox is trying to climb back towards Mizomo here as well. It was 3/10. The better driver the previous lap, and Mizomo's looking a bit ragged at the moment.
Beginning
to
think.
Cringe at what Jay wrote in the chat.
No, I have not read it. I will read it.
Please don't.
Oh, I've just read it. Oh. We're not going to repeat it on the broadcast. We don't want to spread the cringe. But
Briggs has got by Henry King on this lap.
Oh, he has too. Looks like that was another problem there for Henry King. I'll go back and check, and it looks like it was a slowdown out of the chicane, is what did that for Henry King.
King trying to come back at him. Not going to happen into the hairpin. Half a second on the previous lap for tipping is going to get, unfortunately, disappeared by that mistake we saw at the start of this lap. Hunting down the back straight, Henry King. Does he pull the trigger, release the arrow? Those two things don't line up together.
No, certainly not. But Jason Spriggs lining it up very nicely, coming into the braking zone. He knew that King was too far back to make the move and just decided to move back onto the racing line before they got to the braking zone. But the battle's certainly not over. King, who we saw was quite aggressive on the brakes in race 1, taking it a bit easier here in race 2. Staying behind Jason Spriggs for the time being. He'll know that there are opportunities later on in the lap for a pass.
Still keeping an eye on Mizomo in the battle for P4. He lost another 3/10. So P4's got to fight. P6 has got to fight. P1 has got to fight. We need SimSpeed triple screen at this point. Oh, yeah. P9's got to fight.
4 screens?
Jay, buy more computers.
Yeah, Nathan Tregarthen getting by Reese Harnell, apparently, and Harnell currently taking a bit to get back up to speed. Henry King, meanwhile, on the back of Spriggs once again, and this could be side-by-side into the hairpin as Spriggs goes defensive. The door is open for Henry King on the outside. Tries maintaining it, gets on the throttle nice and straight. Let's see if that translates into a good run down the straight. Looks like there's hints of that happening. He's right in the draft. Through the kink they go. And it's defensive again for Jason Spriggs. Henry King lifting out of the maneuver. Well, it's going to be the penultimate lap for them, so there's still plenty of opportunities for King to get by and salvage something from tonight.
It's going to get spicy here into turn 1. No lunge, and Vela looking as well to capitalise. Locks up the left front. Carried it a long way, but somehow got it pulled up and turn 2 as well. Gilbert and Tipping for P2. Tipping got a slowdown. So that gap to the leader is now out to 4.2 seconds. Stevens really with no pressure. Tipping with it all. Gilbert clambering over the rear end.
Yeah, this could be a good battle there for second place. Tipping just had a little slide. Another slide again for Henry King. He is ragging that thing on the throttle in his pursuit of Jason Spriggs. He's got to be careful of Simon Vella there behind as we check at the hairpin. Oh, very close between those two drivers. Simon Mizomo still trying to defend there from Gavin Cox. who's really creeping up on him now. Into the hairpin, the battle for 6th. Vela going very deep into the hairpin.
Alright, there's going to be one more lap tonight. Matt Stevens begins it with 4.5 seconds in hand, but all focus is behind him. The battle for P2, battle for P4, the battle for P6. Henry King launching it over the curbs there. He's got a good run. Can he go on with it without a slowdown? He's looking to the outside. The inside's open, Henry. Take it.
Oh, no! There we go. Henry King squeezed there. Yeah, a little bit too ambitious. He could very easily have gone for the inside line there into turn 1. He's lost that position again to Simon Vela. Mazzomo, on the other hand, still keeping Gavin Cox behind him. It looks like that might be the way they stay unless there's a surprise slowdown for Mazzomo. The battle for 2nd. Oh no, there we go.
Let Gilbert by. Across the track goes Tipping. Gilbert's going to pull a margin. And Tipping throws away a shot at the win. He throws away a shot at 2nd. It's going to be P3 for Tipping. He'll be really disappointed by how that's played out. Cox lunges really hard at Mazzomo, but he just can't quite get there. And he's going to get a poor exit as well out of the hairpin. So Matt Stevens, first round of the V8 Support Series, and he's going to go back to back. In fact, he clean sweeps the night, pole, and both race wins for Stevens.
What a great run as Aaron Gilbert crosses the line for 2nd. Tipping has to settle for 3rd, and Simon Mazzomo just fends off Gavin Cox there for 4th place. A strong drive for him. Jason Spriggs and Simon Vela work themselves out in that order. No big last lap lunge for Simon Vela this time, but still P7, an improvement on his race 1 result. And it looks like Brett Hender, who we saw spun on lap 1, still running and still keeping Tom O'Connor honest to the very last.
Surprise slowdown for anyone here? Doesn't look like it. Let's have a look at our full results at the end of race 2, at the end of our evening here on SimSpeed TV. It's 5.8 second winning margin for Matt Stevens. He was the deserving winner of both races tonight. Not the most consistent, but he was certainly one of the fastest. He was the fastest at the front, that's for sure. Aaron Gilbert comes home in 2nd after starting that one from 4th. Tipping home in 3rd. Mazzomo picks up P4 ahead of Gavin Cox. Jason Spriggs, Simon Vela, Henry King, Nathan Tregartha and Reese Harnell make up your top 10.
By 2/10, Tom O'Connor managed to beat Brett Hender to 11th place. Nicholas Skariev, unfortunately, coming home a lap down, as was Anthony Green. Both of those guys not having the best of nights, struggling for consistency. Corey Kitchen only made it 1 lap in before retiring and is the last of our V8s on this particular grid. Loxton and Christensen didn't end up having to come out tonight, but who knows what duties they'll be performing at future rounds.
Going to be plenty of fun in 3 weeks' time. The support series joins V8SCOPS at Montreal with the Porsches and at the trucks. That will be a whole different lot of fun on a Friday night there. But tomorrow, a big day coming up. And we kick things off with the NASCAR iRacing series at midday Australian Eastern Standard Time with the NASCAR road course. Then the major series, 1987 Daytona 500 using the Chevy Monte Carlo and the Ford Thunderbird. And then the V8SCOPS main game, Split 2 and Split 1 from Montreal right here, 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Right here on SimSpeed TV. But for tonight, that is all. So, from myself, Ryan Jones, and from Reese Gardner alongside me, and Jay Kennedy, who was on the director's chair and on the mic for a little bit as well. Thank you all for tuning in We'll see you tomorrow for a big day on SimSpeed TV.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?